Good evening and welcome to your weekend edition of APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. With thousands of cases of missing and murdered Indigenous people across the country, families and advocates gathered outside the Vancouver Police Headquarters to raise awareness about what they say is police inaction in investigating these cases. APTN's Tina House has this story.
These are the faces of 3 cases of women and a young girl who were found dead under suspicious circumstances.
The police were built, yes, to serve and protect, but not Indigenous people. They were built to serve and protect the colonial systems, buildings, communities that were developed on our stolen lands.
Tatiana Harrison was just 20 years old when she stopped answering text messages from her mother and disappeared. She was last seen on the downtown east side and reported missing to Vancouver police on May the 3rd, 2022. Natasha Harrison says her daughter Tatiana's case first fell through the cracks from a jurisdictional issue.
On May 9th, you claimed she was staying in Surrey, so you sent her file to Surrey. You assured me jurisdiction wasn't an issue, and you'll communicate with each other. Later, you used jurisdiction as an excuse. Awareness was delayed 8 days because of the jurisdiction issue. Tatiana remained unidentified for 3 months, even though you were given the missing persons report and a female body recovered because of this jurisdiction issue.
On May the 2nd, the day before she was reported missing, a body was found in Richmond, and once again, due to jurisdictional issues between police departments, they failed to identify those remains until August the 5th as Tatiana. She was found in this dry-docked yacht. Police say her death was not suspicious, but with no direct transit to get to the location, her mother believes she was taken there. Harrison is demanding action and what she is calling police inaction that has prevented justice in the case of her daughter.
No cameras were checked because of this jurisdiction issue. Your investigation was delayed 24 days because of this jurisdiction issue. Evidence was missed because of this jurisdiction issue. And you left me on the downtown east side for 3 months, building support from scratch, armed with nothing but desperation and panic.
14-year-old Noello Soup was reported missing after running away from a group home on May the 12th, 2021. In February of 2022, a man who lived in this suite was found deceased. He was a known serial sex offender who was deemed a danger to the public. Police cleared the scene after he was removed from the apartment. But then, 3 months later, on May the 1st, 2022, the remains of 14-year-old Noello Soup and another woman were found in that same suite by cleaning staff after police failed to find both of them. O'Soup's family says the coroner did not attend the scene after they were found. There is currently an investigation into the first officer's conduct who cleared the scene initially.
Coming together with these 3 families too, and I appreciate everybody that's come here today as well because, it shows a strong unity and front. To me, I'm just going to blade out, call it corruption. A lot of this, needs to change, especially how you pick cops in Canada. And to me, this is the worst place of all.
Sheila Poorman's story about her missing daughter Chelsea Poorman is almost identical to what she is also saying is police inaction in her daughter's case. Chelsea Poorman disappeared after a night on the town on the Granville Strip in downtown Vancouver in September of 2020. 19 months later, her body was found outside of this abandoned mansion in one of Vancouver's most affluent neighborhoods. Again, police declared her death as not suspicious. And like Tatiana, her mother says police did not access surveillance video from Granville Street or consider that Chelsea had a disability and could not walk the distance to where the house was, and also could not physically scale the high gate to get onto the property by herself. Sheila says she is convinced her daughter was taken there.
They failed. They failed Chelsea. They failed Tatiana and Noella. But there's other families besides those ones that they failed. And something has to change, especially towards First Nation people.
Butterflies in Spirit founder and MMIWG advocate Lorelei Williams could not hold back her anger.
Me, the community, the Crazy Indians Brotherhood, we're all here protecting these families. We support them. Why are we doing your jobs? Do your jobs properly. Their lives matter. Do something about it.
No one from the Vancouver Police Department attended the rally. However, they did provide APTN with updates on the cases. VPD says Chelsea Poorman's case remains open, though not a criminal investigation. They can't speak to the coroner's conclusions in Tatiana Harrison's case, and that the Noello Soup investigation is ongoing. But for grieving mother Natasha Harrison, she is not satisfied.
Everything was just me and her, and they mishandled my only child's case with such disregard.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
For decades, the community of Manawan has lived with a piece of hidden history known as the ghost babies. At least 25 children died or went missing after being sent to hospitals. For more, here's APTN's Lindsay Richardson.
This is the kind of home Delima Flamand's known most of her life, full of light, life, and laughter from her daughters. Today, Delima's in her 90s, and life in Manawan's long-term care home is quieter. But her daughter Annette comes often to visit, binder of paperwork in hand, hoping to one day bring news of a long-lost child Delima never got to know. She tells APTN the story she's told so many times over about how she gave birth to a daughter, Violetta, while in a tuberculosis sanatorium outside of Manawan. How her healthy baby died suddenly and was buried before she could see the body.
Si Violetta est vraiment décédée, c'est de savoir où elle a été inhumée. Puis la grosse décision qu'on va devoir prendre aussi, c'est advenant qu'elle est vraiment décédée, qu'est-ce qu'on fait du corps? Est-ce qu'on demande qu'elle soit rapatriée ici pour qu'elle puisse être enterrée auprès des autres membres de la famille?
You'd think this would be easy information to find, but the paper trail is misleading. While her medical file says she died at 4 weeks old, the parish record says she died after 740 days.
Ce qu'on cherche, c'est la vérité. Puis je pense qu'à partir de là, il y a un processus de guérison qui va s'enclencher.
Delima took her story to the MMIWG inquiry, which concluded that this story and a handful of others are not isolated cases. They're known as ghost babies. They come from over 100 Innu and Atikamekw children who disappeared after being hospitalized outside their communities between the 50s and the 70s.
À la Manawan, on a dénombré 25 enfants. Okay. Et il y a 18 familles jusqu'à maintenant, là.
Pierre-Paul Nikwe works for Awashak, a community association named after the Atikamekw word for baby. For a few years now, they've tried to provide comfort to families of the missing, but now they press institutions like hospitals, cemeteries, and churches to turn over records, and quickly.
Il faut pas qu'ils ressentent de la honte ni de la culpabilité. C'est pas eux qui sont responsables de cette situation-là. Toutefois, s'ils restent dans l'inaction, ils pourront porter le poids de la culpabilité et de la honte.
For years, the government did nothing to respond. But in 2021, Quebec adopted Bill 79. It's an access to information bill known as the Babies Law, appointing a special advisor to assist families in their research and put legal pressure on institutions refusing to cooperate. Good news for those who need it, like Viviane Echequan Nikwe, who has 3 different death dates for her little sister, Lauriana.
Il y a eu 27 octobre. Puis au presbytère, c'est le 28 octobre. Puis l'autopsie, c'est le 30 octobre.
Then there was the funeral itself.
Quand il est arrivé là-bas, mon père Ma mère disait au salon de funérailles quand on est arrivé, le cercueil était grand, elle dit, alors que ma soeur y avait juste 2 mois et demi. Puis le bébé qui était là, on dirait qu'il avait 10 mois, 11 mois.
Indian Affairs Canada still has an active status card number on file for Loriana, begging the question, could she be alive?
C'est dur de vivre ça, là. Même quand je m'en vais en ville, quand je vois des personnes qui ressemblent à un autochtone, je regarde puis je me dis, c'est peut-être ma sœur.
Families have had to find ways to commemorate their loss in the meantime.
On sait qu'il était déjà à l'article le 28 juillet.
This empty Tikanagan was built to honor Manon Ottawa's uncle, known as Baby Maxime, who died after being treated in hospital for a skin condition.
Tant qu'on n'aura pas de réponse sur la disparition de bébé Maxime, on ne mettra pas de tissu. Il y a eu Marie-Madeleine, un bébé mort-né, Joseph Paul.
Angèle Petitcoué already knew her mother had lost several children in her lifetime and decided to do something to remember them.
On s'est assis, c'était justement avant le dépôt du rapport de l'FNDA. On confectionnait des petites robes rouges. Et puis, c'est là que je lui ai parlé de mon projet.
This is how she found out about her identical twin brothers, Jean-Pierre and Jean-Guy, who disappeared as babies. After hearing others testify at the MMIWG inquiry, she made a report to police and started doing research, but hasn't yet asked the government for help.
On ne sait pas si on va trouver justice. C'est quand même beaucoup d'injustice.
So what could have happened? According to the MMIWG summary report, some witnesses are convinced the babies were kidnapped to be used in medical experiments or sold to non-Indigenous families. Another theory, an epidemic or an outbreak of notifiable disease authorities refuse to control as a form of genocide. The report recommended a public apology from the institutions involved. But is the Quebec government considering reparations? Indigenous Affairs says...
Honnêtement, non. Quand on est venu me rencontrer, quand les aînés sont venus me voir, ils m'ont dit, exemple, ma mère est rendue à un âge X, elle va décéder sans avoir la réponse. L'urgence, c'est ça. Alors, on ne dit pas qu'il n'y aura pas d'autres étapes par la suite, mais là, la priorité, c'est de trouver l'information.
It's said that here, in Manawan, mothers used to wait on the riverbanks, watching planes fly overhead, hoping for news of their missing children. And just ahead of the anniversary of the baby's law, so many still maintain hope that answers are somewhere on the horizon.
On est quand même résilient. On n'est pas abattu par ça, mais on veut connaître la vérité.
Quebec's baby's law status report will be released in Manawan in the presence of these families at the end of April. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Manawan, Quebec.
The activities of a secretive RCMP unit may soon be revealed. We'll have that story for you after this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. 2 remote northern Manitoba First Nations are suffering after a long string of tragedies. Opipon Nipawin Cree Nation just declared a state of emergency due to critical incidences in the community, and now there's been a 3rd death in St. Teresa Point. The community, about 450 kilometers north of Winnipeg, is reeling after the loss of 2 14-year-old girls who froze to death outside of a home this past weekend, including Dana Shingoose seen here. Now, the Island Lake RCMP say they were called to an accident on the ice road on March 1st. RCMP believe a 39-year-old woman hit a 43-year-old man and he died of his injuries. She's in custody following a charge of criminal negligence. Still in northern Manitoba, where the Opipon Nipawin Cree Nation has declared a state of emergency. Chief Shirley Ducharme made the announcement following a string of critical incidents in the community, also known as South Indian Lake. The First Nation is just over 1,000 kilometers north of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Chief Ducharme said the community needs immediate help from all levels of government to address addictions and mental health issues. Noreen Tate died in a Winnipeg hospital after an assault on February 19th, And on March 1st, another woman was found unresponsive after a snowmobile got stuck. She later died at the community's nursing station. The woman who accused a Catholic priest of an indecent sexual assault says happened more than 50 years ago will have to wait a few more weeks to hear if the court finds him guilty or not. The Winnipeg trial for retired Oblate priest Arthur Massé heard closing arguments. Massé was charged last year following a lengthy RCMP investigation. Victoria McIntosh was only 10 years old at the time of the alleged assault and a student at the Fort Alexander Residential School where Massé was an administrator. Massé's defense suggested McIntosh fabricated evidence and that she was motivated to lie to advocate for other residential school abuse survivors. The prosecution urged the judge to consider that it was Massé who was not to be believed when he said he was innocent. Justice Candace Gramond reserved her decision to March 30th. The activities of a secretive group called the Community Industry Response Group may soon be revealed. CIRG is a secretive arm of the RCMP referred to by some First Nations activists as Indian fighters or oil and gas mercenaries. Now the RCMP Civilian Review and Complaints Commission is launching a systemic investigation into the unit. A recent APTN News investigation found allegations of intimidation, torture, lying, and deceit against land defenders at various protests in BC, including in Wet'suwet'en Territory and Fairy Creek. On Monday, Ontario approved a First Nations-led plan to build an all-weather road. It would link a northern area known as the Ring of Fire with the rest of the province. The all-weather road will provide access to critical minerals such as cobalt, nickel, and copper. The province of Ontario accepted the reference terms submitted by the Webinique and Martin Falls First Nations, so that eventually a road will link those First Nations and the nearby mineral deposits to the Ontario highway system. However, the Niskandaga First Nation opposes the plan. In a YouTube video posted Monday, Chief Wayne Munias says his First Nation was not consulted on the project.
And it's something that the CEO of Ring of Fire Metals needs to know, that you're not going to cross our river system without our free, prior, informed consent. You're going to have to kill us. You're going to have to do more than just getting access from the province of Ontario.
We have to step aside for one more short break. When we come back, from playing basketball in the Special Olympics to playing on the big screen, we'll share the story of a First Nations actor who's making his dreams come true. Welcome back to APTN National News. From playing basketball in the Special Olympics to playing on the big screen, a First Nations actor says his dreams came true when he was cast with Woody Harrelson for the movie Champions. The heartfelt basketball film was shot in Winnipeg and will be hitting theaters this week. Tamara Pimentel has this story.
Where do you get this guy?
He just showed up one day.
Meet Tom Sinclair, a First Nations actor from Winnipeg who will soon be on the big screen in every major theater.
I'm honored to represent the Aboriginal community on the big screen. And so if you dream it, you can make it happen. And I always thought, well, I have disabilities and everything, but that won't stop me to make my dreams come true.
The 26-year-old plays Blair in the film Champions. Directed by Bobby Farrelly and starring Woody Harrelson, Champions is a heartwarming story of a former minor league basketball coach who manages a team of disabled players. He soon realizes the team of friends can go farther than imagined. A truth for Sinclair, who was born with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, Tourette syndrome, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. He played basketball in the Special Olympics in his younger years, and in the film, Blair plays on the basketball team coached by Harrelson.
We need to be represented in a way that is appropriate for there's a lot of things out there that people with disabilities can't do this, can't do that. but we are like we normal people too.
As the only Indigenous character in the cast, Sinclair says Blair is very much like himself.
I feel like Blair sometimes. He's outgoing, he's fun to be around, he's very friendly, he's funny, he's just always time of the party. Sounds rolling and action.
As an aspiring filmmaker, Farrelly let Sinclair call action in many of the scenes.
The first movie that I watched was the Jim Carrey Grinch movie, and that really inspired me. And I used to just watch the DVD extras over and over and over again to see how movies were made.
He says viewers can expect a lot of laughs as well as some unscripted scenes.
It was totally a blooper, but they kept it in the final film of me coming out of the changing room all excited, and I need to sit down on a bench, but I sat down on the bench and I totally miscalculated the seat and I just fell over. And yeah, it was really, really funny.
Champions was an opportunity for the entire family. Sinclair's siblings, Robin, Jerry, and Charlie, played as extras on opposing teams throughout the movie.
I've taken a couple of shots in the movie and played against my brother.
I am so happy for him because he made a good success being cast as one of the main characters.
Sinclair just got back to Manitoba after the movie premiered in New York City. He says while the red carpet experience was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, reconnecting with old friends meant the world.
This is Alex.
Sinclair says he's currently working on some short films of his own, but hopes to continue representing the Indigenous community on the big screen. Champions will be in theaters March 10th. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Looking forward to seeing that one. Well, that's all the time that we have for your APTN National News this Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to leave you humming this classic disco-era hit by Blondie, except it's covered in Inuktitut by Inuk recording artist Alyssa P. I'm Savannah Kelly. Take care and have a good night.